I'm 81 years old, and I need to tell you something before it's too late for you. Getting a girlfriend at 65 was the worst decision I ever made. Not because she was cruel, not because she cheated, not because she stole from me. No, it was worse than that. I got into a relationship because I was afraid of silence, and that fear cost me something I can never get back. You think loneliness is the enemy at my age, don't you? That empty house, that quiet dinner table, that cold side of the bed. That's what I thought too. But I was wrong. Silence wasn't my enemy. Fear was. Let me start somewhere honest. When I was 65, I had been a widower for 6 years. My wife, Margaret, died of pancreatic cancer at 59. Quick, brutal, the kind of illness that doesn't give you time to adjust your heart. We were married 38 years. We weren't perfect. We argued about money, about my long hours, about how I never fixed the loose cabinet hinge. But she knew me. She knew how I cleared my throat before saying something uncomfortable. She knew I needed 10 minutes alone after coming home from work. She knew I pretended not to like dancing, but if she grabbed my hand in the kitchen, I never pulled away. After she died, the house didn't feel empty right away. It felt echoey. Every room held her outline. Her robe still hung behind the bathroom door for months. I couldn't move it. I'd stand there brushing my teeth and see it in the mirror. Some mornings I almost spoke to it. That first year, grief was loud. It roared. It kept me company. But around year 5, grief quieted down. And that's when the real loneliness arrived. Grief at least feels like love with nowhere to go. Loneliness feels like you don't matter anymore. Do you understand the difference? I'd wake up at 6:15 every morning out of habit. No reason, no job to go to, no wife to bring coffee to, just the sound of the refrigerator humming and birds outside like they didn't know anything had changed. My son lived 3 states away. My daughter had her own family. They called, yes, they visited on holidays. Good kids, I'm not complaining, but children grow outward. You stay behind. There were days I didn't speak out loud until evening news came on, and I'd answer the anchor like he could hear me. That's a dangerous place for a man. At 65, you still feel capable, still upright, still strong enough to lift groceries and shovel snow, but you can see the horizon now. You know there aren't 40 years left, and that realization, it can make you desperate. I met Diane at a community gardening event. She was 61, recently divorced, sharp eyes, quick laugh, still wore red lipstick like she meant it. She asked me about tomatoes. I don't even like tomatoes. But I stood there explaining soil pH like I was a professor of agriculture. When she laughed at something I said, I don't even remember what, something inside me woke up. It wasn't lust, it was validation. She saw me not as a widower, not as Mr. Patterson whose wife passed, just as a man. You have no idea how intoxicating that is when you felt invisible. We started meeting for coffee, then dinners, then weekends. I bought new shirts, nothing flashy, just not beige. I shaved every morning again. I started using cologne I hadn't touched since Margaret died. Part of me felt guilty. Part of me felt alive. And that's how it starts. not with fireworks, with relief. Diane moved into my house after about a year. That's when everything shifted, not dramatically, slowly. At 65, you don't blend lives, you collide histories. She rearranged the living room, said the couch placement blocked energy. I didn't argue, it was just furniture. She replaced the curtains Margaret had sewn herself. I told myself fabric doesn't matter. But one night I walked past the hallway closet and realized Margaret's winter coat was gone. Diane had donated it. She said it was time. Maybe she was right. But she didn't ask me. That was the first crack, small, thin. Then came the expectations. Diane had 2 sons. One struggled with gambling. The other bounced between jobs. They were polite to me, called me sir at first. But over time their tone shifted. There were casual mentions of money problems, car repairs, missed rent. Diane never demanded anything directly, but she'd sigh, and I'd feel it. I'd already raised my children, paid for college, helped with down payments. I had done my time as a father. Now I was just the boyfriend with a paid-off house and a pension. Tell me honestly, what would you have done? One evening, her younger son showed up unannounced, needed a place to stay just for a few weeks. It turned into 8 months. 8 months of tension in my own house. He'd sleep until noon, leave dishes in the sink, borrow my car without asking once. I became irritated, then resentful, then quiet. And here's the worst part. I didn't blame him. I blamed her, but I never said it clearly. Instead, it came out sideways. Sharp comments, heavy sighs, silent treatments. We started sleeping on opposite sides of the bed like strangers who accidentally booked the same room. And then the health scare. Not hers, mine. At 68, I had a minor stroke. Small, the doctor said. Warning shot. I remember lying in that hospital bed, staring at the ceiling tiles. Diane sat beside me, holding my hand, but her grip felt tense, afraid. I wasn't thinking about death. I was thinking, if I decline, she will leave, or worse, she will stay out of obligation. Have you ever felt that shift? When love starts feeling like responsibility. After the stroke, I slowed down. Fatigue lingered. My speech occasionally stumbled. Diane grew distant, not cruel, just disappointed. The vibrant dinners out stopped. She began going to events without me, said I needed rest. One night I overheard her on the phone telling a friend I didn't sign up to be a nurse again. Her ex-husband had been ill. She thought she was escaping that chapter. Instead, she had walked into another. And so had I, but here's where the real mistake happened. It wasn't moving in together. It wasn't the sons. It wasn't even the stroke. It was when I realized I was more afraid of being alone again than I was of being unhappy. So I stayed for 5 more years, 5 years of quiet tension, of walking on eggshells in my own kitchen, of feeling like a burden. Do you know what that does to a man? It shrinks him. I stopped inviting my children over because the atmosphere was strained. My daughter once asked gently, "Dad, are you happy?" I lied, and that lie created distance. She visited less. Calls became shorter. I had traded solitude for companionship. and ended up with isolation anyway. Diane left when I was 73. Not dramatically, no screaming. She said she needed something lighter. That hurt, but it wasn't the deepest pain. The deepest pain came 2 years later. My daughter Emily died in a car accident, 42 years old, 2 children, gone in one rain-soaked intersection, and here's the part that still wakes me at 3 a.m. The year before she died, we barely spoke because she didn't like the tension she felt in my house, because she didn't feel welcome around Diane's sons, because I had chosen peacekeeping over truth. When she needed her father most, I was busy maintaining a fragile relationship. The last real conversation we had was strained. I was distracted, impatient. Now I would give anything to have one more awkward dinner, one more argument, one more moment. You think you have time to repair things. You don't. After Emily's funeral, I came home to a house that felt cavernous, and for the first time, silence didn't scare me. It crushed me, because now I understood what I had sacrificed. Not for love, for fear. Diane had long since moved on. Her sons had moved on. But my daughter, she was gone, and part of that distance was my fault. At 81, I don't blame Diane. She was human, so was I, but I let my fear of aging alone steer my life. And it cost me presence, it cost me honesty, it cost me precious years with my child. So when I tell you getting a girlfriend at 65 was my biggest mistake, it's not because companionship is wrong. It's because I entered it for the wrong reason. If you seek love to share your fullness, that's one thing. If you seek it to fill a hole you refuse to face, that hole will follow you. And it may swallow something far more valuable than solitude. Now I wake up early, I make my coffee, I sit in that same chair you saw earlier, and I let the silence exist. It's not my enemy anymore. It's just space. Space to remember. Space to regret. Space to be honest. If you're 60 or approaching it, ask yourself this carefully. Are you lonely? Or are you uncomfortable with yourself? There's a difference. And the cost of confusing the two can be higher than you imagine. I will likely die in this house alone. But I am not running anymore. And I wish, more than anything, that I had learned that lesson before it was too late.